going on, YouTube? I thought I'd jump in on this Vinyl Tag 2021 thread. So, welcome to my channel. If you notice, this is only like my second video, so I'm a little bit late as far as January is concerned, but it seemed like a lot of fun, so here we go. The first prompt was a discovery in 2020. Y'all gonna laugh at me, but my selection is Zeppelin's Physical Graffiti. In fact, all Led Zeppelin. I realize I sound retarded saying things like I discovered Led Zeppelin in 2020, but I will say I discovered that I like Led Zeppelin. Most of my friends from high school and stuff remember me sort of ragging on Zeppelin, but during quarantine and stuff, I upgraded my speakers and sort of put in a lot more time with my hi-fi system at home, and them psych rock albums really hit in a way that I never noticed previously, listening to either headphones or just sort of like on MP3s and stuff. So I'm like really diving hard into things like Sabbath and Zeppelin and stuff like that, things that I never really listened to that much before. Second up is a quarantine buy. Early on in the pandemic, I had myself a cocktail and put on some Thelonious Monk live in San Francisco, and I just thought that this album sounded amazing, and so I had to reach out, find it online, buy it on vinyl. Things I want to find in 2021. This is an album by Raphael Saadiq called Stone Rollin'. I'm really itching for a copy of The Way I See It, which is a different album by Saadiq. It's just really pricey compared to this one. Great track on this one is Radio, but I have to admit that I like The Way I See It better than Stone Rollin'. So keeping an eye out for Raphael Saadiq in 2021. A box set. Michael Jackson's History. This is sealed. I actually got this from Dylan at Noble Records. I had to take a road trip to attend a funeral during the pandemic, and Dylan's channel really inspired me a lot, gave me a lot of like sort of solace and comfort through the pandemic. It's great to see just sort of normal people with their enthusiasm and their passions for their hobby. I love the fact that he's like got a family and a business out of what really makes him happy. So I love tuning in, watching him. All of his suggestions have been amazing. Michael Jackson, you'll come to know if you subscribe to my channel, is my top artist. Primary drive of my collection is Michael Jackson related material. So the fact that he posted on Instagram that he had that in, and his prices were really affordable. I had been sort of trolling on eBay for months looking for an affordable copy. His was still sealed. I haven't opened it yet, mostly because I have all the tracks on other albums, but it is something I'm a completist. I just feel better knowing that it's on my shelf. Next up is a concept album. I don't really know if this counts. It's a little obscure. According to Discogs, not a lot of people have this album, and there's not a lot of good info about it. But this is called At the Monster Ball by the Vampires. Now, what this is like, it's a surf rock album. The rumors on Discog is that this is by the Wrecking Crew, which is the same band that's on the sort of studio musician band that's on Pet Sounds. But all the songs on this are as though they're singing at like a Halloween monster party. The recording production value on this is through the roof. It sounds phenomenal. It's a really old album. I think I bought it off of somebody who was unloading their grandma's LPs back when I lived in New Orleans. So when I finally got around to plugging all my stuff into Discogs this past year, this album was a real surpriser for me that it was so well regarded and high valued. Next up, we've got a band that changed directions. Now, a lot of people are probably familiar with bands like the Black Crowes or the Black Keys, but I'm a big fan of the Black Lips. And their earlier albums are much more sort of like garage, a little bit of psych, sort of modern rock type stuff. This one, they take a hard turn towards folk and almost like country. I rank it lower in my tastes. It's in a world that's falling apart relative to their earlier stuff. So that's my entry for. It's also red vinyl. White label promo. Shout out to Steve over at Value Vinyl. Victor Brady, he recently got a white label promo 45 copy of Brown Rain, and he played a clip on his channel, and I just thought it sounded awesome. And so I dove in, I started streaming it. I fell in love with the album, went on Discogs, remarkably affordable. Also got myself the white label promo copy. I described it to a friend. It's as if Led Zeppelin had a sweet child with like a homeless guy from the Florida Keys. Comp album. Recently started watching Mama B, I think is the channel name. She's really into girl groups and stuff. The whole subsection of my collection is just girl groups. So I recommend this comp to her, especially Girl Crazy, 20 Northern Soul tracks by female artists. So VR is sort of like a historic outfit. They go around, they put out these comps of 45s that are really sort of popular, especially with Northern Soul music, but relatively hard to find. And so I've got a couple of these comps, but this one in particular tickled my fancy because it was all girl groups. So check that out. Story or album that tells a story. As I understood other people responding to this, it's not so much that the album itself is like a rock opera, but rather just that there's a story behind you having it or something that you associate with it. This is Guster, Ganging Up on the Sun. It's still sealed for me, so I haven't really given this a listen, mostly because I'm not that big of a fan of Guster. I ended up going to a concert of theirs as a sort of like olive branch. The girl I was dating, a friend of hers, had tickets. I was trying to sort of like be nice and so on and so forth. So I went to the show. My rule of thumb is when I'm at a concert, I'll buy all the vinyl that they have for sale. And so I picked this up, a couple others, opened some of the others, gave them a listen. Not that big of a Guster fan, so I never really got around to taking this one out. And sure enough, value price on Discogs is just through the roof as of lately. So I'm probably going to try to sell that off and maybe get something that I like better. Take a sip of my Manhattan while we're waiting. Album that needs a vinyl release. I mentioned this on my first video, but the Oblivions have this track called Call the Police, and it's actually by New Orleans artist Stephanie McDee. It's kind of like a Mardi Gras anthem. If you've ever been to Mardi Gras, you'll hear it played a lot. It's got like this sort of Zydeco rock organ accordion thing going on. Love the album. I haven't been able to find anything on vinyl for it. It's just like on CDs and stuff, and it's not even like a major record label or anything like that. So if there's anybody who's sort of in the biz and like putting out weird stuff like that, highly recommend if they could track down original recordings of like sort of R&B and Zydeco New Orleans artists for vinyl pressing. Let me know. I will buy a lot of them. So next up is a common and uncommon record. So common record, Michael Jackson's Thriller, right? A lot of people talk in the vinyl community about how people are confused. They have old copies of Thriller and they think they're probably worth a ton of money, but actually the whole shtick of selling millions and millions of copies of a record means that the supply is really high. You're not going to have a lot of resale value. However, uncommon, I recently picked this up, is the same album. You'll notice that this one has been pretty mistreated. Found it in a bin recently for all of a couple bucks, but I've been on the hunt for a very long time because the credits on this one, only a credit in the production, Quincy Jones. Michael Jackson is not listed as co-production credit. These went out before the ones that do list Michael. So as you can see on this one, co-production Michael Jackson. Michael got a little tiffy that he wasn't listed on the original copies, and so he insisted that it be adjusted. And so getting the ones that just have Quincy Jones on the credits is a little less common and a fun way to sort of structure your digging. An EP. I mentioned in my last video, this band, they're out of Japan. They're super fun, high energy, Guitar Wolf. This is called Jet Satisfaction. It's a 5-track EP. These guys they're just absolutely hilarious. They're totally hardcore, super fun. Highly recommend checking them out. I think this might also be, no, not colored vinyl. Girl Group. Girl Group, again, sort of shout out to Mama B. I highly recommend this if you're into girl groups, as I am. This is the Detroit Cobras, Tried and True, or Tied and True, sorry. These guys, they're out of Detroit. They do a lot of sort of covers of like old historic rock stuff. This is, I think, a gray splatter vinyl. But they're super fun, like Southern rock, contemporary artists, very, very fun. Seen them in concert a couple times, highly recommend. An album cover I love. This one's a little irreverent, but Ike and Tina, Out of Season, right? So Tina Turner here is in whiteface, eating some watermelon, and then on the back is Ike in the same sort of makeup getup. And I remember coming across this in a store. It's got this great sexy gatefold of Tina Turner, but I just thought that the sort of cover images were crazy. And the Ike is technically on the front cover, but I always store it with Tina because I think I just like Tina better than Ike. Ike's certainly a pioneer of rock and roll music, but not a very good person. So cover art I absolutely love. Ike and Tina, Out of Season. Album I've listened to the most, apart from Michael Jackson stuff, which is probably things I've listened to absolutely the most. I got to give props to Weezer's Blue album. When I was in middle school, this was my jam. I listened to it a ton. I was really excited to see the MoFi put it out, so got myself a copy. Probably like over the course of my lifetime, this one's way up there for times I've listened to it cover to cover, full album. Definitely Weezer's Blue album. Had to get an OG copy of. I mean, I prefer original pressings. Sometimes they're pricey. So what I picked for this is the idea that like some of them are not pricey and they're so good and you come across them so often that there's really no excuse not to have them in your collection. And that's Tina Turner's Lonely Dancer. If you grew up in the 90s, you're going to notice the Missy Elliott sample from I Can't Stand the Rain. Tina Turner does her own cover. That's an old Ann Peebles song. Tina Turner's version is just great. It like tickles your nostalgia for sure when you're listening to it. It's also got a cover of David Bowie's 1984. This whole album, I was shocked. I mean, everybody's familiar with What's Love Got to Do with It or whatnot, but the rest of the tracks on this are very, very good. Highly recommend giving a deeper listen to the full album of Private Dancer by Tina Turner. Last album I purchased is the Dream Syndicate, Box Topper, Odd Box Topper, his channel. He held this up. I'm always looking for new artists because it's reliable and easy to find, especially with what I've noticed with all of the stuff that I bought that was relatively new artists in the early 2000s really shot up in price. So just gave me a good reason to get into more newly produced music. A lot of stuff in terms of pop charts doesn't really tickle my fancy. He described this. I thought the cover art looked really great. Cover album's very, very psychedelic. The patterning it looks like a sort of original painting, and then it's all through the inside gatefold, etc. So sounds great. Highly recommend. Double LP. Very, very affordable on Amazon. So check that out. Dream Syndicate. Album I don't get. Now this is not that album. This is Pretty Hate Machine by Nine Inch Nails. Love Pretty Hate Machine by Nine Inch Nails. Phenomenal artist, phenomenal album. But in 2020, Nine Inch Nails dropped The Ghost or something, a sort of online only free album. I gave it a listen. I was like sort of excited, good way to pass the time amidst the pandemic. I didn't get it. It sounded to me like something that you would play at like the incense store at the mall. It was very like ambient soundscape type stuff. A couple of my friends who were into Nine Inch Nails said that they really liked it. It's not for me. I don't get it. My advice, Trent, would be go back to your roots, re-listen to Pretty Hate Machine, get back on track. Punk album. I just did the previous video, 5 albums that were all punk, but I didn't list sort of obvious staples that I think everybody would like. But I just recently picked this up, The Clash, self-titled. This is actually, I believe, a UK pressing, 1979. Very, very clean, very good condition. So I was really excited digging in a private cellar, came across this. Last up, 2020 reissue. I don't know if this really counts or not, but like I said, Dylan from Noble Records is always raving about Randy Holden, Population 2, and I actually picked this up from Dylan, and it's numbered and got a signature on it, so I was pretty excited about that. This album's great. If you like Zeppelin type stuff, if you like that sort of like gritty, distorted guitar solo type, psychedelic classic rock, or even anything like White Stripey in contemporary listening, you're going to really like this album. So I would just double up everything Dylan says in defense and praise of this record, and it's worth checking out. So that's my vinyl tag for 2021. Thanks for watching. Please, by all means, comment, introduce yourself in the comments, like, subscribe, so on and so forth, all the usual stuff. As I said, I'm deciding how and to what extent to dive more into the YouTube vinyl community. It's been a really sort of great and welcoming environment thus far. I love the engagement that people seem to have, how nice they are, how responsive to questions and comments. And mostly I'm just looking for outlets and ways to meet people with different tastes in music so that I can learn and expose myself to more stuff as a way to enhance and improve upon my collection. So thanks again. Take care.